be as one.
Okay, Scott, go ahead.
Good evening. This is Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board. It's Tuesday, February 20th at like 5:03 p.m. And this meeting's being conducted totally remotely. There is a normal script that's read, but I will do my best to try to parrot some of what that is supposed to be. First off, I do believe we have a quorum, and I will go through and ask for a roll call in regard to that. But so we have an agenda, and we're going to work through the agenda. I don't know if there's any other people who are on the phone or on the line other than Kona, but not aware of any other guest speakers. And if there is somebody out there, let me know right now. So without further ado and more info that I'm trying to wing here, let's have a roll call. I'll call the meeting to order. And Dave Franzuto.
Aye.
Ginger Andrews.
Present.
Dave Bossy.
Present.
And the vice chair running the meeting, Scott Anderson, is present. So I call the meeting to order. Let me find here. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. This is Ginger.
I have a motion by Ginger. Do I hear a second?
Second, Dave Franzuto.
Dave Franzuto. All in favor? Dave Franzuto.
Aye.
Ginger Andrews.
Aye.
Dave Bossy.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'm going to make a proposal. I'm going to make a motion myself from the chair to try to see if everybody's read all those draft minutes. I would like to see if we could just approve all of them without, breaking them up, unless people don't like that idea.
Sounds good to me.
Dave Bossy, I'm okay with it. I believe we already discussed the one change that we knew had to be made for one of them weeks and weeks ago. So I'd second that motion.
Okay, so so what we're looking to do is vote on draft minutes of December 5, 2023, draft minutes of January 2nd, 2024, and draft minutes of January 16, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve all three of those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Second. I'll second.
Dave Franzuto had made the motion. It was seconded by Miss Andrews. So let's have a roll call vote. Dave Bossy, all in favor?
Aye.
Ginger Andrews.
Aye.
Dave Bossy.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. First item on the agenda are the town elections, and we have two open positions. One is Andy and the other is Ginger Andrews. And it was my understanding, Ginger, that you were inclined not to run this time?
That's correct. I have served 2 terms, and when I came on the board, there was some doubt as to whether it would be possible to find interested and active board members, and I would say that I have a lot of confidence in the current board, and I'm sure that people will step up to fill my position, and I think it's time for me to make room for somebody who's more actively on the water. And I have one question, Mr. Chairman. Did we include the letter that Libby approved in our last motion?
No.
No.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dave.
I'm sorry. I happen to be looking at the agenda. We'll be addressing that later. Sorry, Scott.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Just looking at it.
No, so Ginger, we greatly regret not having you looking to seek re-election, but we also appreciate all your time and energies that you've put into this. And if you could stick with us till the end of the term, that we'd be most grateful. And the other
Oh,
person,
absolutely.
and the other person up for election would be Andrew Lowell. And I know he's pulled papers. Whether he's proceeded to get them all signed, we'll have to wait and hear from him. So that's, and I'd encourage anybody to reach out to see if we have any other individuals who might be interested. Again, I think there are people out there. We just have to identify them and get them to go through, I guess, the hard part of getting the 50 signatures. So I don't see that the harbor.
Mr. Chairman? Could I-
Yes.
could I say- I just wanted to echo what you said, Ginger. I really appreciate you being with us on this board, and you bring a special insight, and I want to thank you. It's really been great.
Well, gosh, thank you, guys. I don't feel like I've had a lot to say, but I really appreciate working with everyone.
It's one of those things, time commitments. We appreciate everybody's volunteer time commitment. I know one time in one of our last meetings, Andy was talking about like the volunteers, and like we have to look at ourselves. We volunteer all the time. So when there was Harbor Shellfish people showing up, people volunteering their time, I kind of took a little exception to that. To say, we're the volunteers as well. So
Yeah.
you get out what you put into things.
Yeah,
So,
good point.
so there is, I don't see that Sheila Lucy is in attendance on the screen. So we'll move on from that. I also don't see that Tara Riley is present, even though she had a bundle of material, which should help move to the other parts of this meeting. So we'll move on to, are there any public comments by anybody? I see Samantha joined. Okay, hearing no public comments, we'll move on to the old business, seed management discussion. I guess we can't have that discussion technically without Sheila here, even though I know. I'm sorry.
Tara.
Sorry.
I'm happy to comment on seed management if anyone's interested.
Seeing as you're the closest to seed management other than Tara, please do comment while you're not an elected official. I do call upon you to speak at this time, Samantha.
Thank you. At this time, the NRD has still been monitoring. They've been actively moving some seed. And, it still stands that there is a large concentration of seed on Bass Shoal that we are interested in moving. Tara and I have a plan as a joint, plan of attack between the NRD and the NSA, really just kind of looking at wind and weather. The permit from the Department of Marine Fisheries that allows that goes through the end of March. And it's just really not, with the wind and the cold weather, it's not the nicest of environments to be out moving seed. So if it can wait, it will wait. But there is a plan ready to execute as soon as there's a nice window.
Okay, good. Have you heard any reports, or have your members talked about the harvest this year at all? I know we haven't seen official numbers at all, but just was looking for general feedback of how the scalloping season's going.
From what I'm understanding, the season's coming along quite well. This is kind of the time of year where the economics of the fishery is maybe a little bit bigger of a factor than the environment of the fishery. There's still plenty of scallops to be caught. They're still looking really good. But as always, the market has either slowed or just gotten a little bit more difficult this time of year. So from what I'm hearing, that's the biggest impediment. But they're still looking great.
Scott?
Yes, Mr. Franzuto?
Yeah, anecdotally, I've seen quite a few fishermen, in with double limits by 10:15, 10:30. So I think they're, for end of February, I think we're doing okay. I mean, it is a tough time because it's hard to sell them right now, but but anyway, anecdotally, that's what I'm saying.
Well, we can't deal with the sales, but we can help try to keep the harvest going. So that's
Yep.
good. Any other comments by anybody? Harbor watershed, public information outreach ideas. I know we bring this up quite often. I don't think we have any new ideas other than the ones we've already discussed. Am I wrong?
Not that I know of.
No, I think we're good on that for now.
And we'll move on to the next topic, Harbor Action Plan Committee.
Yeah, I was unable to attend the last meeting, because I had a conflict with that academy that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, totally understand.
Yeah, they chose the dates Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I lobbied to change that, but I didn't prevail. But anyway, what I have before them are the same issues that I have before you, and when you want to talk about those things, I'll try and do that screen share that I was talking about earlier, and I'll put the harbor plan ideas up, and we can just kind of blow through them.
Okay, good. I'm going to try to stay on the agenda, seeing as the last couple of times when we got off the agenda, we never got back to the real agenda. So,
All right.
removing Marine Department from the Police Department. I guess Mr. Franzuto.
Yeah, I can. Let me see if I can. Maybe I won't screen share. What I'll do is I'll bring it up so I can see you guys, and I'll just go down to that section. So what that section is entitled is Harbor Master Department. I met with Sheila. She has been doing some negotiation with the town administration. I believe that she lobbied to be removed from the union, and I think she was successful in doing that. I know that they've appointed their assistant harbor master, this man who's been working with her for the last few years. His name is Shane Casey. He was actually a participant in the Harbor Masters Academy. So my write-up on that is that to support and this was written after I met with Sheila personally. So because of her ongoing efforts, I changed the wording a little bit, but it says, support the Harbor Master's effort to reinstate the department as an independent entity under the supervision of the town manager. The department was separated from the former Marine and Coastal Resources Department April of 2012. The Natural Resources Department was established and is supervised by a director who reports to the town manager. The harbor master component was placed under the direct supervision of the police department. I've talked to Jeff Carlson about this issue. It's in the forefront being discussed. So I just think in our case we should just be supportive of it, and I'm hoping to have it included as an action item in the harbor plan. That again we support separating the harbor master department out from the police department. So that's my story on that.
So traditionally that has been separated before. Well, you were the harbor master.
No, in the late 80s, the department was called the Shellfish and Marine Department.
Okay.
And it was operated by a man named Alan Holgate, and then a man named George Resendes was the Marine superintendent, and he took on the harbor master duties and the shellfish warden duties. And then in 1990, I took over from George, and we expanded the biologist component of it. We built a hatchery. We started doing very detailed pump outs. We were the fourth federal no discharge zone in the nation. We hold the record from the environmental EPA for pumping more sewage than any other community on the East Coast, which is a heck of an honor.
Yeah.
Tongue in cheek, but we upgraded the fleet. We bought patrol boats. We have dedicated pump out boats. That sort of thing. We expanded the Marine Department, like I said, with the biologist. And then we expanded the Marine Department even further when we took over the Conservation Commission. And Jeff Carlson, who actually came to work with us as an endangered species monitor to run the endangered species program, which we also ran along with the lifeguards. And then in 2012, as my narrative says, that was disbanded. I went to be the emergency management coordinator for the town. Jeff took over as the natural resources director, and he took with him the shellfish, the biologist, the shellfish warden. With the biologist comes water quality and all of that testing. And the Marine Department went under the police, and they took the pump out function, obviously the patrol function, mooring inspection, mooring permit issuing, and that sort of thing. So Carlson I literally met with him 2 days ago, and he is supportive of this reorganization. So
To me, it seems to make sense, because when was the last time the chief of police showed up at one of our meetings?
well, it's been a discussion, and I will tell you, and I won't give you the gory details, but I've gone to numerous communities to testify in front of their selectmen and their mayors about the pros and cons of this type of reorganization. And in some cases, we were successful in keeping it from going under the police, and in some cases, we weren't. So it's not uncommon within Massachusetts to run into this situation. A lot of it has to do with finances. A lot of it has to do with money allocation, budgets, and that sort of thing. But I think it's time that, especially in Nantucket, that I still feel is a premier port on the East Coast, that it's time for this to be revisited.
Good. No, I appreciate that feedback, not having known all the history of it. So
Mr. Chairman?
yeah, Mr. Bossy?
Thanks, Dave, for that. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate you talking to Sheila about this. I appreciate that input from her. I'm torn between supporting this, pushing it forward, because I believe we should, to the harbor update plan without a whole lot more discussion, which is what's going to happen. I think the only requirement, my feeling was, and if everybody agrees with me, I'm going to make a motion to have Mr. Franzuto push this to the Harbor Update Committee. My feeling is that everybody wanted to hear Sheila's input and how she felt before making that recommendation. And I, for one, am comfortable with what we just heard. And I would make the recommendation that we push this forward to the Harbor Update Plan, have our representative put that on there.
So is that your motion?
I'm making a motion then for this. I'd like to keep them separate, because I know Dave had a couple extra other items to talk about brief on that Harbor Update Plan, but I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and support this. I feel, I don't want to speak for other people, but I think we just all wanted to hear what our harbor master thought about it too. And it appears that it seems to be a good plan.
Mr. Chairman?
Miss Andrews?
If he will make the motion, I will second it.
Then I will make the motion.
Okay, so we've had the motion and we've had it seconded, so all in favor, Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
Miss Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, our agenda seemed to have missed a few of these. They've had a few other details, one of them being the pier, which is of significant interest to me. Maybe we should put that one off for a future discussion.
I'm just making sure. No, I'm reading off the right agenda.
Is the pier in there and the other, because we had about 3 different recommendations from Mr. Franzuto, as I recall. Except it was a separate email about this. Let me go back to see if I can find it.
I agree that it should be on the agenda, and we have diagrams and a lot of information to talk about. I don't see it officially listed that way on the agenda.
Right. If I may, I just found it. So I have Dave's email here. He had so we had the ferry terminal, the embarkation fee, and the appropriation of the embarkation fee, and I believe that the last one was the we had a number of them, Petrol Landing and and Harbor Master we've dealt with. So we still have a few issues. We have Petrol Landing, which I'm still willing to put off until we really hear what they're doing down there. You know, lawsuit wise.
I would agree on that. So.
Commercial facility. Well, to me, that's part of petrol. I'm speaking my mind. I'm sorry. So I think the really big ones are the embarkation fee and the ferry terminal.
Okay, well, let me, if I may, Mr. Chairman, let me just give you 5 seconds of update as far as Petrol Landing is concerned. You know, they won their court case, and I worded this very carefully that I'm at the point where we need to do something, even if it's as simple as improving the dinghy dock situation while they continue to get bogged down in their legal problems. But I guess the update is that the administrator, and I'm sorry, she probably has a more sufficient title than that, but anyway, the administrator of the land bank gave that update the other day. So it's moving along, and I just didn't want it to be lost.
No, we'll put that on a specific line item in a future agenda. I think it is important that we keep it, you know, a good tight rein on that whole process. Would you speak to the fee? Because I saw things in the paper, whether it's true or not, that they did already talk at the select committee about increasing the fee.
Right, and I'll defer to Dave. Dave Bossy, did you watch that meeting or?
I did, and they are actually. It was tossed up in the air, and it's finally being talked about. So I think we should watch that for a little bit, but I think we should, when we have a reason, a use to give an input to say this is why we should do it. When we're ready to vocalize that, I think we should send that to them in the next couple of months.
Okay, because I know after I got your message that they were discussing it, I reached out to the town manager and told her that I'd be willing to help in her gathering of information from other communities. You know, about I had heard a $2 fee. I had heard there was some discussion about every town that had signed on had to agree or revote this. And I've had town council, not our town council, but I've had council look at this, and that's not what he appears to understand the legislation to be, that it can be an individual town initiative. So yeah, I just don't want to miss the opportunity. And again, I'm hoping to have this as an action item in the harbor plan update. So there it gets memorialized, and over the next few years, we can work through having a review committee for this, raising the fee, doing whatever we want. But again, I don't want it to be lost.
So if I can make a suggestion, I'd like to put this and the ferry pier as an item that we specifically address for the update when we have a slightly bigger audience, attendance.
Agree. I've made notes to that. Okay.
I'd like to see that happen, because I think we all need to discuss this. Personally, I'm in favor of both of them, but I think we need to talk about this because it's going to be the harbor update plan, and it's a really important thing. So that's all. I think I'd like to see a little bigger attendance in our group to just talk about that, if that's okay with people. We certainly can vote it.
I'm fine with that.
I am too.
Okay.
I am also.
Okay, good.
One thing I would ask Dave, in the harbor action plan or everything, is there anything about if the fee, if there is an audit committee, so we can understand where that money goes, how it's spent, and, is it being spent where we think it is?
Right. Well, what I'm recommending is establishment of a budget review group that would comprise of a member or two from this board, a member from public safety, and a member from transportation, which would encompass how the legislation's written as to what those funds can be spent on. And if you look at the highlighted part of my email, it says that the funds can be spent for harbor services, public safety protection, emergency services, infrastructure improvements within and around Nantucket Harbor, and professional services pertaining to the potential use of or reuse of land, buildings, and infrastructure in the vicinity of the harbor. So I figure if you had an oversight group, and other communities have these, if you have an oversight group of SHAB, public safety, and transportation, you could get a pretty good review of how the money should be spent. The money historically since 2003 has been spent for summer special officers to, quote, direct traffic around congested boat times, unquote. And that's the only thing that money has ever been spent for. And I have the budget figures for the last 5 years, and it averages somewhere between $220,000 or to $225,000. So I just believe that I believe that there are other needs out there, but I also believe that if at the end of the day that group decides that directing traffic at busy boat times is where they want to spend the money, then fine, so be it, we'll vote it. But I think there needs to be that discussion. And of course, the raising of the fee to at least $1, if not $2.
Anybody else have any other
Mr.
comments on
Chairman?
that? Yeah, Ms. Andrews?
I totally agree with Mr. Franzuto.
When I listen to how the money's getting spent, it might be another reason why having the harbor master separately from the police department might give somebody else some, access to some of those funds as well. Where before maybe somebody that Sheila wouldn't feel as comfortable about going to her boss. So we have to see how that evolves.
Exactly. And there are mechanisms. This is a standalone fee. It's very similar to the Waterways Improvement Fund, which gets money from the moorings, the rental moorings, boat excise tax. That money does go to Sheila, but right now with the oversight of the police, she doesn't have control over that budget. So I think we can just move in a far better direction. And like I said, if at the end of the day the decision is that that's the best place for that money to be spent, then fine. But I think that there are others. There should be some other priorities.
Any other comments on that? Okay, so we will look to put the ferry terminal and the fee as separate discussion items in a future meeting.
Thank you.
Agreed. Great.
Speed of ferries letter. I think that we approved to have that sent. I don't know without Peter being here if he actually has sent that out from our end. But I will ask Samantha, have you sent the letter out? No. You're on mute if you're.
Samantha, I can request her to unmute. She must have stepped away. I'm not sure, Peter. I don't know. I was looking at Peter's note, and I'm not sure he sent it out. He said I've sent it to you, but I agree. I thought we voted to send that out.
Yeah, because
Well-
it was already reviewed, and I think there were maybe, again, we didn't have the meeting last time, and so I think he was prepared to send it. I don't know that.
Oh,
he actually
that's
did.
right. That's right. Then I'd like to make a motion that we ask him to send that out. I thought it
I'll
was fine.
second that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Bossy to send a speed concern letter to the various ferry systems and or I'll say cruise lines that come to the island. And I had a second by Miss Andrews.
And that was the one as edited by the town,
Correct.
by Libby. Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Franzuto,
Oops, sorry.
and all in favor? Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
Miss Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye as well. So we'll reach out to Peter and have him send that letter.
Hi there. I saw you had asked me to unmute. I apologize. I had accepted another call on the side briefly. But I'm back if you needed me to chime in on something.
Oh, being
Yep.
over. Yes, just have to back up to where we were in regard to if you had sent out your letter to the various ferries or cruise lines in regard to the speed of coming in and leaving.
We have not sent out a letter yet. I wanted to wait and make sure that you all voted on your letter, so that hopefully timing can all coincide. And that I do know some other nonprofits have expressed interest in doing the same. Once I know that yours is out and ours is out, I can follow back up with them and friendly nudges along that 2 have been sent and more would be helpful.
Okay, well, I'll send Peter an email saying that we have approved for him to send that letter out, and then Samantha, I will get in touch with you so you can move forward and do that as well.
And Peter did share with me a draft of his so that we could, really make sure to echo the same sentiments and try to, like we talked about the other day, have strength in that argument. So hopefully.
Yeah, very good. I mean, I want to get these letters out because we're going to be into even increased ferry traffic before we know it. So, okay. Anybody else have comments?
Mr. Chairman, just an aside. I have a note that Tara is has a stomach bug, and that's why she couldn't attend tonight. She's not in good shape. So
Sorry to hear that.
it's a medical issue. Yep.
Returning scallops to the harbor. That was really a discussion that was, I guess, Jim Sherlin had brought that up, and then we'd had some discussions. And I think it requires a little more research if, in fact, the shells are economically available. Excuse my dog in the background. The one thing I did have a conversation, which I can jump a little bit ahead, about the scallop runoff into the road. That the town does go out and buy, I'll say, like quahog shell, and pays a pretty big bundle. So I don't think they're inclined to, voluntarily giving stuff out of what they normally use to put into the harbor. But there is plenty of, well, I shouldn't say there is plenty. The scallop shells get put out and people scoop them up as they go along. And I don't know that there's a huge stockpile. So we'll have to figure out how to, get shells to be put in the harbor if we're trying to increase that, capability.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Andrews?
Yeah, at one point I recall one of the openers at a shanty I was working at one point complaining about the number of duds that the fisherman had included in his catch, and he said, well, I'm going to go out there with a hammer and smash them when they come into the culling board so they'll go back into the water. And I thought, oh, well, good luck cleaning up the bottom of the harbor.
That's a little crazy. Not helpful in the long run.
I have occasionally seen partly decomposed scallop shells, but I don't know if the return is the chemical return is better if it's going back through runoff after the scallops have been exposed to the sun and some crunching, or if they just have to, if they're sitting in the water. So I think that might be some, we might get some either experimental or greater advice about what's the most efficient way to do it. I think someone brought up the point that there's not a lot of meat to a scallop shell. I mean, that's the whole reason we need to open them by hand. They can't be tumbled the way the calico scallops are. So, I don't know how much returning them to the harbor would really accomplish, personally.
No, I have to agree when I hear that. I think getting more of the oyster shells and getting those put back in is probably a better way to bang for the buck to utilize shells without extreme costs. Anybody else on that topic? Okay, I'll move down. I did have a meeting with Drew Patnod at the DPW. He's only been on board for 6 months. So I did bring up the issue of I'll say, the runoff from the scallop pile between the DPW main entrance and the dump. And I made several suggestions to how to cheaply rectify that problem. And Drew's looking into that possibility. The couple things, because I have to drive by it every day to and from, wherever I go, that it appears there's more than just the one part of the problem. And what happens is the way the road is sloped there and in curves, that there's a lot of drainage runoff that comes down the hill and kind of sits in front of that the scallop dumping area, as well as you have the bike paths with a separate, path of water, and then at the one end is a huge chunk of missing pavement where water sits. So and then you can see where water does run like in a channel from where the pavement is, where the scallop pile is, and then it will make its way into eventually into the road. That the one thing I noticed that it's not quite as bad when in commercial season as when there's more, I'll say, recreational scalloping going on, because people are backing their trucks in a little further. So again, I think we just got to keep our eyes on that. The other thing I learned from Drew is that if it's not coming directly from the scallop pile, we're back to David Gray, who would be the stormwater runoff when coming down the road. So he would be somebody we have to reach out to figure out if we need to put a culvert or something there to handle the water coming down the road, to which again just kind of exacerbates the situation of a slight run out from the scallop pile, which just feeds into the road because of all the other water. So sorry to be so descriptive, but we are going to continue to monitor it, and I will follow up with Drew to come up with some other solutions. Again, I had mentioned to him using 6x6 like railroad ties to divert water, use hay bales, anything to help at least keep that sludge back. So we'll see what happens. Because to move the gates back would cost a decent amount of money, and I'm sure they'd balk at that. But, okay. Move on to the next topic if there's no other feedback on that.
I can just say one thing about that. I don't know why, and maybe it's economics, but I don't think so. I don't know why they changed to put the scallops shells out there. They were stored at the jetties. If you look at the parking lot at the jetties, there's a wooden bulkhead that's in the far end of the parking lot, and that's what the scallop shells were piled up against. I don't know why we moved it to the dump. I honestly don't.
Mr. Chairman?
What I started to say was economics, but they're still getting the shells, so they're still selling the shells or giving them away. I don't know what they're doing.
You know, they're giving them away in one of the bins as you're in the regular the dump, for lack of better words. Miss Andrews?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think there might have been people who complained about the gulls and the shells when they were down in the parking lot, that first parking lot there by the jetties. So they moved them over to over on the west side there behind the tennis courts and so on. And then they needed that area to fill up with septic tanks when we were doing some sewer work. So when they moved out to the dump, it was a terrible year where there was hardly any scallops. So initially it was a very small amount of scallop shells. You know, for a successful season, it's a little bit bigger. And I would take, I mean, yes, it's true that when it rains, there's runoff from the road and the bike path, but there were plenty of bone dry days when the salt juice was running directly from the scallop pile into the road that had nothing to do with runoff.
No, I agree. I agree with you, Ginger. I just was not into getting argumentative with my first really meeting with Mr. Patnoid. So seeing he's kind of a rookie of 6 months in that job, I'll give him a little bit of slack, but we'll stay on top of that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Ms. Andrews?
Yeah, I found him very pleasant to deal with and reasonable to talk to in my small interaction. I think he actually he was with the previous DPW director. His name is escaping me at the moment. He worked extensively on some of the work that came out of after the big sewer spill a few years back. Mm-hmm. So he's hardly a rookie. I think okay. He's had his time to find his way around, some of the, maybe not every single intricacy of the island, but I think he's got a pretty good handle on things.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll push him a little harder.
He was the inspector for many years for the oversight company for the sewer installations.
Oh, okay.
And as a side light, he's from a small town in North Carolina, about 6 miles from where Andrew and I live. It's a small world sometimes.
Sure is. Okay, no, appreciate everybody's feedback on that. I will follow up with him. And I'll throw out there about the possibility of moving back to jetties, or at least maybe combining the two spots. Because again, if you're scalping out in Mattakit, I think you'd be much happier to drop your, shells out there if you've trucked them already, and if you're down in the heart in town, jetties would seem to be better there as well. But again, not knowing where everybody's shanties are, that's the other challenge, because sometimes you got to make double trips. Let's move on to the clarification of Red Flag Day protocol. And I don't know, without Tara here, whether we can have that discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I suggest we pass on that one until she's here.
Okay, we'll pass on that.
Just to note on the clarification of the Red Flag Day, as licensed scallopers have not received any communication from the Natural Resources Department of that clarification. At the original discussion, when Jeff and JC were both in the meeting with us, we had expected that communication within about 2 weeks, and we have not heard anything. So ideally, if Shab is requesting an update, it would. I don't know that it would come from Tara, as she is not,
Okay.
the decider on enforcement. That's more Jeff and JC's purview.
Okay, I will, seeing as there's nobody else here to do it, I will reach out to Jeff and JC to see when they plan on making some official communications.
Thank you. That's awesome. Appreciated.
Okay. Last item I have on here is a semi-annual Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board report. And without Peter, I think we have to table that one as well.
I agree. I went looking for it, and I need another copy, so I couldn't find it. So yes, I would agree. Let's table that one.
Okay. Health of the harbors. Okay, new business. Again, I'm not sure how much we can have the discussion on agriculture regulations review. I know Tara had sent out everything, and I know she also handed out last meeting, because she was there, copies of hard copies, and if anybody has any comments, she's look forward to having additional feedback on it. But I've looked through that whole report. There's a lot of simple clarifications from, I'll say, how you refer to a select men or versus a select board. But there are some good clarifications that are redlined. If you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to read through there, see if there's any other modifications that we can help her with.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question about that?
Yes, Mr. Franzuto.
Was it the idea that we were going to have a workshop on that, so we could dedicate a meeting to just blow through that?
That was my understanding, and
Okay.
it's like 47 pages or long.
Right.
And it should get a meeting of its own.
Well, if we did it at a workshop, I think we could sit down and really bang it out kind of quickly, actually.
I think so too, especially because a lot of it's been redlined and there's only a few other things to tweak on it.
Right. And we wanted to clean up the aquaculture licensing thing, which is what started this, I think.
So I'm making a note to set up a separate workshop, which I think things will move much quicker in a workshop as compared to having the formalities of the vote, and then we can bring it back to SHAB for an official vote after we, roll through it.
Certainly.
Is there any other comments or feedback anybody wants to say? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
So motion was made by Ms. Andrews to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Bossy. Ms. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye as well. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for
Thank you.
bearing with
Thank you.
me. I think in the
No.
future, I will put one of the disclaimer things at the front of remote meetings so that I don't have to chop it up.
So you
Nice
can
job.
add 5 minutes to the meeting. But thank you.
Exactly.
Good job. I agree
Okay.
with Dave Franzuto. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay warm, everybody.
Okay,
care.
I'll try.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.